Anyone else with any historic preservation or neighborhood-related announcements? I'd like to briefly take a few minutes to make an announcement of my own. I was first appointed to this commission by former Mayor Pro Tem Ralph McLeod to represent District 8 in January of 2001. The city's charter limits service on the board or these boards and commissions to 6 years. So in January, I'll be stepping down. This is the last month that I will chair this commission because next month we will be electing a new chair and vice chair for the commission for the coming year. I'd like to take a few moments to comment on my time on this commission and some of the preservation opportunities and challenges faced by the commission and as the city as a whole in the coming year. First, I want to thank my fellow commissioners for electing me chairman for each of the last 4 years. I'm proud of our service on this commission and our accomplishments. I would like to think that in the last 6 years we have increased the level of professionalism on this board. No longer are we the commission that the mayor once removed from city access cable because he was embarrassed by the commission's proceedings. One of my first actions when elected chairman of the commission was the creation of the Designation Committee, a committee that is of preservation volunteers to assist with identifying and designating our city's historic resources. This committee has grown in both its scope and its importance in the last 4 years. In other accomplishments, we have completed an exhaustive rewrite of the city's preservation plan, a process started under former Mayor Kenneth Barr and continued under current Mayor Mike Moncrief, a plan that has since been fully adopted by the City Council. We have rewritten large sections of the zoning ordinances relevant to historic preservation. We have facilitated consensus building among disparate groups of preservationists and development groups. We have approved new individual historic designations and new historic districts during my service on the commission, including the creation of the Mistletoe Heights Historic District, the Historic Hanley District, and the creation of historic districts in Morningside and Carver Heights recently. Historic preservation is a form of economic development, and just last year, in only 1 year, we have approved historic site tax exemptions that are the result of more than $25,560,628 in investments. This is $25.5 million in investments into the reuse and preservation of Fort Worth's historically significant and designated buildings. But for all of our successes, of which I'm very proud, preservationists in the city have much more work cut out for them. A couple of weeks ago, Preservation Texas, the statewide historic preservation organization, identified the Fort Worth neighborhoods of Arlington Heights, Monticello, and neighborhoods between and around TCU and Colonial Country Club on the state's annual 11 most endangered list. As is happening across the nation, the teardown epidemic is wiping out historic neighborhoods one house at a time. The livability of our Fort Worth neighborhoods is diminished as trees are removed, backyards are eliminated, and sunlight is blocked by towering new structures built right up to the property lines. House by house, Fort Worth neighborhoods are losing part of their historic fabric and much of their character to these new McMansions. The teardown trend is spreading quickly. What was first a phenomenon in Rivercrest and North Highmount has spread across all of Monticello and Arlington Heights and is now evident in University West, Berkeley Place, Samuels Avenue, and other historic neighborhoods. Insensitive infill is also happening in moderate income neighborhoods like Riverside, Meadowbrook, the historic North Side, among others. There are other challenges. We must continue to encourage property owners to designate their historic structures, and that starts with the owners of some of the most significant properties in Fort Worth, the city of Fort Worth itself and the Fort Worth School District. For example, the city-owned, century-old Cowtown Coliseum in the Stockyards and the Work Progress Administration era Will Rogers Memorial Center, as well as sites such as Trader's Oak and Trinity Park, have no historic designations locally. And as a group of civic leaders and Fort Worth School Board members worked for over a year to identify more than 40 historic schools worthy of at least a base level of historic designation, and yet their work was tabled by the Fort Worth ISD. As we start to address these challenges, I would like to ask that everyone, the members of this commission, the City Council, those in the audience, neighborhood association members, to remember that we are relatively on this planet for just a blink of an eye, but our actions have a long impact once we are gone. After, we will be judged by those who come after us as to what kind of stewards we were while we were here. Will they look back on the early part of the 20th century and say that we were good stewards? The 19th century English writer John Ruskin has a quote that I like to use as the signature line at the bottom of my emails. It says, "What we ourselves have built, we are at liberty to throw down, but what other men gave their strength, their wealth, and their life to accomplish, their right does not pass away with their death. I challenge each of you to consider yourselves citizens, not consumers. We are all citizens of a larger community, citizens of Fort Worth, and not just consumers with an insatiable appetite to chew up and consume our city and its resources. I challenge my fellow commissioners in the coming years to not allow a series of seemingly reasonable decisions, such as the promise of a new office building or the need of a new parking lot, is worth the demolition of a historic house or historic storefront, because the total of these, quote, seemingly reasonable decisions results in the destruction of the historic fabric of who and what Fort Worth is. And lastly, I would challenge those in the audience to get involved. I sit here today because in 1993, at the age of 24, I went to my first neighborhood association and I got involved, and they asked me to do more and more and more, to the point that I got nominated to this commission, and that's how it started. I would also like to add that my involvement on this commission has changed my life, and I realize that's a big cliche, but it was representing the city of Fort Worth at a Texas Historical Commission meeting in Abilene that I had a conversation that led to my being hired to be the job of Preservation Center Director at Preservation Dallas, and it's really serving on this commission that led me to become a realtor working in historic districts in Fort Worth. I would like to thank former Mayor Pro Tem Ralph McLeod for first appointing me to this body, and I'd like to thank current Mayor Pro Tem Kathleen Hicks, who continued to appoint me to represent the people of District 8, in spite of the fact that we moved from our Meadowbrook neighborhood to Ryan Place 2 years ago. I would like to thank my partner, JD, for allowing me all the countless hours away from him spent at community meetings, and I would like to thank the city staff and my fellow commissioners for their dedication, their stewardship, their service, and their friendship. I thank you all and wish you the best of luck. All right, and with that, we're open to the rest of the meeting. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the September 11th, 2006 regular meeting minutes. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Klein.
I move we approve the September 11th regular meeting minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion by Commissioner Klein, a second by Commissioner Sanders Wise for approval of the September regularly scheduled HCLC minutes. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, no. The motion carries unanimously.